we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for logging on this evening and attending this evening's program. My name is Matt Schumann. I am on the programming team here at Cary Library. Before we begin, just a few notes. Please let me know if there are any technical issues that I can try to resolve. You can send those to me in the chat. You can also send any comments or questions in the chat. This program is made possible by the generous donors to the Cary Library Foundation. I'd like to now introduce Cami Thomas. She has published 2 books of poems, Cathedral of Wish and Inscriptions. Her 3rd book will be out this fall. Each of those are published by 4-Way Books. Cami is a Lexington resident, and we are grateful for her putting together such wonderful poetry readings. So now, please welcome Cami.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Welcome. And I want to thank Cary Memorial Library and especially Christine Muir and Matt Schumann here for their work in putting this together and helping it go smoothly. I'm very appreciative. I'm excited about our 3 poets tonight, Dara Ellerath, Franny Lindsay, and Joan Kane. I feel so strongly the need to make a home in art right now. It's been a tough couple of days. One difficulty in meeting virtually is that you may not be able to just grab the book of the person you're listening to, whose book you'd like to read. You can find out information about that, at least for some of it in the chat, and just do watch that. At the end of the reading, we'll have just a brief Q&A. So if you do have questions, it'll just be for a few minutes, but the poets would be happy to answer them.
Just after the cancer had stolen into your bones, I walked the dog early, the weak moon still out, coat over pajamas, your woolen socks under my snow boots, a half awake grip on the leash. No cars yet, nothing to prove we were there, just an ephemeral helix of paw prints and boot prints. And when we came home to bed, your sleep drifted open for us, like the arched oak door to St. James Church, where you hoped, where I hoped, you would be strong enough to go back on Easter. In November, everything departs. Behold the sunshine draping its already weary cloak over the noontime pond. Behold the peregrine's gaze, clear of rumor. Behold the brambled railroad track at the end of wander. Behold the black dog watchfully curled around the soup bone she's worried down to its lifeless gleam. Behold the plaid shroud of her blanket. I have been willing the finches to fall silent and join the sullen wet of the leaves. Willing my friends to keep out of the way, stars to keep out of the way of the night clicking along its rainy avenue. But behold too the bosomy gloom of libraries, the lamps so earnest and adequate over the little desks. I can bear to look as happiness fades from its tedious season. I can endure each vesper bell tonguing against its brave lip, the thrill in words like reckon, atone, and widow, how they are one another's encrypted sibling, the things they know, the things they hearken. So it's slightly happier November poem. It's sort of written on location here in Cambridge. November on Fresh Pond. But most of all, I have loved afternoons, the color of found pennies and dogs at home in the world of only their names, and the lonely, tall and at peace with their shadows. Everything seems to be holding hands, although it is nothing perhaps, but the light with great care joining together the proper ends of things. For in this deep moment, there is almost enough touch. And I have loved the sun lowering itself gingerly into the smooth gray water like an old woman sore from her long good day, taking a last quick swim. I wrote this poem after I had visited a very special animal sanctuary where large farm animals are brought to get rehomed, and also not so large farm animals like peacocks and turkeys and rabbits. Anyway, this is called Brushing the Horse. I am tired of praying for a world not ours to break. The hushed hawk sweep, blackly lifting 200 schoolgirls into the breathless Nigerian moonlight. The 14-year-old who has murdered his beautiful algebra teacher. For the soft-eyed extinctions. We age in the glare of the news. Give me instead the floor of a barn in the gray of heaven, wet with the scuttle of hand-fed rabbits, their twitch and trust. Give me sparrows' wings scattering hay, the gentle chill of the rafters, the tumbled and redolent towels for carrying peahens back to their safe, dim coops. The hinges arthritic with rust. A cracked bar of soap by the cold water sink. The sun going in like a wife who needs to peel the potatoes. The last truck gone for the day. A plaid shirt draped on a gate. A broom whose bristles flip like the hair of a girl who is ready to go to the Friday dance at the Grange. Give me a roan mare's cheek, the smell of apple, of patience. I am choosing to read this poem because if I were in the audience, I think I would want it read to me. This is called Prayer for My Rapist. I hope he has learned to slink unnoticed across the night's sad meadows, leaving the asters alone with their clusters, evading the blackberry's thorns. So much running from pillow slam, scream and I'll kill you, knife in the sock, from bureau shoved in front of bathroom door, from 7 streaked Polaroids. He has a silky scar on the left, just under one eye. He is short. His hair is lush as a puppy's. Touching him saves my life. Remembering him saves my life. Crouch him in any dark. Deprive him of fingerprints. I will always be wide awake, although he is old, a little less mad, cleaned up. Something about the things that a stare can't freeze, the squalid rattle deep in the ribs. It is only a cough. It is only a trapped wolf's fury. It is the sum of his father's despair. No more than that. He has no shirt. He has no coat. His shoes are torn. He is thirsty. His legs are weak. He clatters and trips. The soft grass offers him only the might of her pity. And 2 more. Morning. But then there is always the square bed of sun that the east-facing window delivers in time for the dog to lie down, basking beneath the piano in only herself. And then there is also the piano with its horse-like kind-heartedness, its sleek peace, and in the next room, which never has needed a door, the radio turned down low by the lamp and the freesia on the small dented table, speaking its terrible stories that sound at this volume like late summer insects, signaling their million-year-old acceptance that this is the end of their lives. And there is always the woman who hasn't been raped in over 40 years, making her coffee, her oatmeal, making the home that no one can ever make for her. And I'm going to finish with a newer poem that is not in the book. I need to. It seems to have fallen. Oh, there it is. This is a poem in memory of my sister, who died of breast cancer about 11 years ago, called Clydesdale. The angel who bore my sister away was a Clydesdale gelding, flanks broad in the evening peace. He stood in a meadow off Star Route 3 on the way out of Boulder, not knowing the colorless air already adrift wasn't a willow limb's sweep across his mane, but a dimming girl on his back, or that I'd stopped less to offer my apple left from lunch than to bow my head to the Lord who tends mares at their midnight birthings, the Lord who steadies the stick slender legs of newborns ambling wetly over dark pastures, the Lord who now lay August's still palm over the day's smooth back like a coarse, clean blanket. Thank you again.
Thank you, Franny. That was gorgeous. So we've had two absolutely beautiful readings. Thank you both so much. And now we'll turn to our final reader tonight. Joan Naviyuk Kane is Inupiaq with family from King Island and Mary's Igloo, Alaska. She is the author of several collections of poetry and prose, including Dark Traffic, which is forthcoming in the 2021 Pitt Poetry Series. She currently teaches poetry and creative nonfiction in the Department of English at Harvard University, is a lecturer in the Department of Studies in Race, Colonialism and Diaspora at Tufts University, and was founding faculty of the Graduate Creative Writing Program at the Institute of American Indian Arts. She is a 2020-2021 Visiting Fellow of Race and Ethnicity under the Center for the Study of Race and Ethnicity in America at Brown University, and will serve as the 2021 Mary Routt Chair of Creative Writing and Journalism at Scripps College. Thank you very much for being here, Joan.
Thank you so much. And I've been so astonished by the poems tonight of Dara and Franny, and so grateful, Cami, for the invitation to read. And good to see some familiar names and faces. Right. Here's some, I'm going to read the newest poems first, and then I'm going to read back through time. Cutting the river. I woke up like this on the shore of a snow-beaten sea during the dark part of a day that will darken like the others into the dark winter. When the tragic figure thinks of death, he thinks of me. In this way, I become, at last, another bright departure. Halt lost and yet high-fed, witness the mountain I make of his grass widow before her middle, too, is worn away with reckless weather. Rookeries. All men knew a secret of the northern part of an old world, a less perfect idea. For the bicornuate woman, it was an island. Though its birds lose our trust, we might learn their language. After all, we have been taught to read and write, to remove our hands from other work as we watch water twist into rock, to cover our wounds, staying alive, light after light. For something, I worry. The moon pronounced with clarity its known topography. Our letters and lists reconstructed grammars. They replaced the ways in which we were grabbed and pushed, then shoved. set a wife and her children throve with indefinite orders. Lineal migration on the small scale is not nautical, but conflictual. Of those men, we knew I could never do them any good. In this way, I forget and let the wind river. It gales and tears at my shoulders and wrists. Sometimes there are even scars. And waking night after night in an apartment parch, I look out the window into the dark for some glimpse of what I lost. An ocean that held so many boats built by men now dead. Numerous windings through Spree to Crown, Driveline, Cairn, Blind. I see nothing but the sky. Sometimes stars as bright as collarbones gleam before I blink, then find these firmaments also disappeared. Other nights, something Atlantic heaves with rain. When the storm lifts away, perhaps it will have left gaffed fish, surplus for a child and another child to find. Perhaps I will no longer fight the mind that might hold but one swan, one hair, one figure. Perhaps I will not begin to cry because of the ways in which I mark the months as they accumulate and fall away. No blood, no certainty. I might yet reek of burnt things. My skirts may carry their stains as I pass trap after deadfall trap, the burren, the coffle of dog hitched to dogs, hitched to a lading of oil. I'm just gonna read 2 more new poems, and then I'm gonna, I don't know, I'll figure out what I'm gonna do after that. Inupiaq. In the straight, some things are useful, others true. She turns to ash, thrust thus, her head thick with arrogance, infection, and futility. It could be how a young wife went, strewn with net-veined willow and mountain avon, trespass and wreckage. She could write about the year she turned to heat and haze, to lays, imumarat, imarachtunga, of cannula and silver nitrate, of petiolus and a keen about to begin again, of greens as they green, of a man aged, eskered, of a combined gleam, to hereby dissolve and hold for naught the soil, gravel, silt, groaning as the tools of our penultimate glacier, a glacier I might pronounce like grief. One does wish for words to fall in the mouth, but find instead a tongue, welt, erosional or depositional, raised and visible, rift into language and grit. Dark traffic. And the snows buffer the sound of a voice set forth. I thought her lost already, that she had gone to neglect the late migration. Before it ceases, the ice collapses easily. There is no day without a symptom. Consolation may turn out to be a guttural practice. After all, the small gesture of sound lodged deep before it glides without warning downward. There is nothing but the wind, a howl and dive where water is thrown over water and sown into it. A howl and dive of wind, water she found flown over water where once we found ice, where the snow once stuttered the sound of that shouter shouting. For this listener, holding her head in her hands, the head in its fine, blank way, an original. Sorry, I stumbled a lot over those poems, those new ones, because, and I'm really like, it's been a hard day and a hard week, and already a hard year. And then I think about those poems, and if I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna just read some poems. I'll stop editorializing. This is called Iridin. A coastline, a transitional place, bears evidence of others' dwelling. A house pit in the shape of a nest, another like a knife, a noose not lost in time. Ours, a useful relationship, though not a tight one, for between us we knew there was something to lose. Fragrant in June heat, in a field of confusion, nothing like metaphor, moss campion, many orchids, sweet, sweet fetch. Little air. A tress or tree, one or the other fell when he blew his breath, then rain, its wind came closing in through a hole in the roof where humankind would never be nurtured. I give no opposition to the sky. I will leave no stone ring behind beyond the outer walls where my abolished house once stood, as it stands now, open to magpies strayed too late into a thin season, their noise mistaken for a complicated engine. I think some of the difficulty is like the poems that I wrote in Alaska when I still lived there, and the poems I've written since I left a couple of years ago. It's, I don't know. Anyway, it's a lot to think about, a lot of distance. Peripheral vision. It is not wine dark. Its bright break of a page, its bright break a page of script repeating. There is not land and land submerged. Everyone sleeps. Let us return to chase the thoughts the waves erase and rake over again in a mind following the heat of its fevers, the woods gone white. Winter of a prime disturbance, said before, subsumed and said again. Hours until the sun cusps the brow of the mountains that bring the wolves away. A hush peculiar from months of rain and wind lifting the eaves, rending rot and gape. Child, I am called to carry you to see the world, snowy as it was before, but more so, and so still, with others still, yet overhead. Just gonna keep plowing through these poems. It's like time travel. Like time travel. It is time travel. Okay. Ivory stomach bone. This is what I expected. Those who make a small fire, a flame agitated by wind. Those two among you who will never name one another will not survive. Stepping backward at the meeting of rivers, I lose time. The wind gusts her white hair away up through rough shore ice. Out of the black border, he lugs a stump of driftwood and 4 boughs. Oh, woman, lapidated woman, what would it have taken to see your heart? The orphan girl. Of the 3 things she told me never to do, the first I am doing now. The second I must have done, although I never meant injury. The third I did, and all too late. Together then we fell asleep, lulled by the clamor of overpainted waves. Nights like these, the wind insinuates in the interstitial rest when it doesn't come direct. By all means bereft, now following the widow bird, erratic, come near and far too soon. Okay, just 3 more poems. This poem is The Sunken Forests. Just above the waterline jut the bone white crowns of drowned trees. They are bare, they're fallen together. I scratch the earth at my feet. I can no longer draw water. I recite the ice that has thrown the river over its banks and move through a terrain of annotations bright, new, and innumerable. Fire-felled, they gape at the stump, split at the consumed root. I will not know how to forget them, though I do not know why. The inlet in the morning, a thin pan inlaid with blue. This, I am sure I have misremembered, for always it is the gray tint, clay and salt. The sun is not a dipper, but a jostle in my head. Second to last poem. Ornament. In increasingly deep water, I swam, searching for a slight curve of glossy, polished blue, even down into a translucent milk white, a long, slender half arc, half buried in sand. In shallows, I'd gone about with a rake. I leveled its teeth against the floor of the sea, sinking toward a fragile shell set with fine engravings, numerous and close. Decreased to a gradual margin, it was a sculpture in incandescent language. I could not find it, perplexed by kelp and mud and by the current with its definite direction. And finally, a poem that I want to read, and also thinking about Jean Valentine and her and my memories of her, and writing this poem. The Prodigy. This is a room that squalls with absence. Nothing more could bring you back. Once you were cursed in tragedy, as loosely hung as smoke that had surrendered and spun toward the ceiling. I have made a close inventory of the ways in which I succumbed to long grass standing in winter. Suppose there might be a clearing, as I have done. Suspect an abrupt miracle. As it sways, the body is caught at the tangled root again. It is caught at the end again against the day. In a room in which you're found at every margin. Forgetting you is nothing but a long discipline. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Joan. That was gorgeous. And same for Franny and Dara. I just thought that was a beautiful, beautiful reading, filled with feeling. And I must say, it has been a very hard week, just to echo what Joan said. Now I'm on gallery view, which means I can see some of you, and I just feel like it might be nice to take a moment to pretend we're clapping for the readers, just to say thank you, because this is a difficult passage. It's very hard to be able to say thank you, and I think, you know, people feel it. I see some people who just have their names up do have clapping hands, things up there too, so I guess we could take those as claps too. Thanks a lot, everybody. I wanted to just give a moment or two for people to say hello or to say thank you or to ask a question. If you have a question, we're not going to have a huge long Q&A here, but if anybody would like to say something, perhaps you could raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question or say anything. It's definitely not required.
You can just unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah, good
And
idea.
that, or if you want to just type in the chat, either way.
Good idea. Yes, the chat would work too. So feel free. Anybody want to say anything? Okay, Deb.
Hi, everybody. I apologize for having to duck out in the middle of this to tell a story to children. But I enjoyed so much hearing your reading. I'm very aware of the impact of this time, certainly on myself, and also observing other people. It seems to me that some people are pulled down and inside themselves by this. And in other ways, creativity is unleashed, sometimes I think surprising even ourselves. And I would be very interested in hearing you speak to that question about what has this been like on your creative spirit. Has it been a time that has in some ways given you energy or really pulled you down, or maybe it's both or something else? And thank you.
I'll answer real quick and say, maybe, I don't know. I am so tired. I don't know. I was so glad to hear such beautiful poems, but yeah, I'm not getting much done other than things I absolutely have to do.
I'll speak to that as well, and I'll speak honestly. I think of my fellow writers and artists as probably getting all of their pens and brushes and drafts out and just having a blast, and that is not my story. I am doing more vacuuming, I'm doing more dishes, I'm doing a lot more laundry, and I'm watching a lot more television. So that's my story. And I really, really miss sitting down and writing something that means something to me.
I'm curious what you're watching, Franny. Just, I don't know.
I don't really care to share that.
All right. So
Dara, did you want to say something?
Oh, sure. I'm kind of a hermit to begin with, so this time in quarantine is not terribly different than my life as I lived it before. Although I do miss, interacting with people, to be sure, because that always fed my creativity. So yeah, that's all I have to add.
Does anybody else have a question? Okay, I actually feel moved to read a poem from about 2,800 years ago, which I just read it last night and it seemed so perfect, and it's very short. And I just think for my own comfort has been a lot TV, tons of it, and I'm not sharing it either. This is by Theognis from the 6th century BCE, and it's just a little short poem. But Zeus, fulfill for me, Olympian, my timely prayer. Give me, against my evils, some good to suffer. Or let me die, if from my pains no calm can be found. For my sorrows, let me give sorrows. That would be luck. But no revenge appears to me against the men who stole into my bedroom and took by force my treasures. I'm a dog that walked straight through the mountain stream's winter flood. I shake everything off. Thank you all so very much for coming. I hope that you have enjoyed hearing these wonderful, wonderful readers. Thank you for your comments in the chat and your claps. And why don't we have one more clap to end up? And again, readers, thank you so much. That was absolutely gorgeous. And a final thanks to Cary Library as well for sponsoring us this evening. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.